liked his job, but he wanted to do something big. We had no intention to start a company. Like it wasn't this like grand mission that we'd come together, start a company. On the weekends, we'd build this random thing and do something random. Basically, like an outlet for all the nonsense that clients would give me. Be like, I don't have to do your work on Saturday and Sunday, so I'm gonna do something fun. And then one thing led to another, and here we are. We started TapFame, the company 2 years ago, but this product is sort of a pivot. I won't go into what the previous product was, but like afterwards, offline, we can sort of chat. This product launched in February 2013, and essentially it's a community of app developers and designers who are building awesome apps for iOS and Android. And the core value proposition is we make it really easy for you to create a portfolio of all the apps that you've worked on. So this is an example. This is a user, Edison Wong. He built Vine for Android, Sleepbot Tracker, Squarespace for iPad, and social link. And there's a bunch more that he's built. So we've made this process really easier. There's over 12,000 developers and designers who have portfolios on the site. It's as simple as just putting the link of your app and we'll start your portfolio, then you can annotate it. Well, actually, one of his collaborators is Daniel Amate. You can see what his profile looks like. He also worked on Sleepbot, but he's worked on Big Brother camera security, Punchum. That's funny. It's a really funny app. iTrackMail is really cool. ShareCal, etc. This is sort of the portfolio where you can see the apps that an individual has developed or designed. The flip side of this is kind of what we call the credits page of the app, where it's kind of like IMDb in the sense that you can see the team behind it, right? So you can see that it's Dan and Jane who worked on it. And then also what we started to do a few months ago is sort of collect the tools they use to build the app. I don't know if you guys can actually see that. So this app was built using Xcode, a couple of frameworks that he's added. He's also telling you what analytics service he used to do analytics, and apps that use certain ad networks annotate their app with that information as well. And sometimes when we like demo this, we get this feedback that it's kind of like the IMDb for mobile apps, and sometimes we run with it when it makes sense. You can also browse developers and designers who are working on awesome apps. So these are some top apps that are in the network. So those 12,000 developers and designers I kind of told you about, they've built a little over 40,000 apps that they've indicated on TapFame that they've worked on. And there's only like a couple million apps, so it's a pretty significant number. You can also, so I told you to collect all this information about the technologies they use. So you can browse apps built using different environments, different frameworks. Suppose you want to see apps that use camera or cloud storage or accelerometer. So here's some apps that people have built using Unity. You notice there are a lot of Android games. That tends to be a popular output of Unity. So what we've done so far that's been really successful is provide a way for mobile developers and designers to have this awesome resume and showcase their work. And our end goal is to sort of, monetization is going to be around recruiting and jobs and all that stuff. But before we get there, there are two things that we're sort of aiming for are more scale. With that in mind, we'll probably, at the current growth, we'll probably be close to 25,000 users by February-ish. We can kind of predict that because we know when people sign up how many people they're adding as a collaborator. So when you sign up, I worked on Sleepbot, you tell us who designed it, who did the icon design. So we kind of predict where that's going to go. But the other value proposition that we're sort of focusing on now beyond Showcase and Portfolio is to really be a place where you can have the resources in the community to become a better mobile developer or designer. And so far that's started with creating what we've called a few resources that you can sort of view. One is the SDKs page where you can browse a bunch of available SDKs by different category. And then we'll show you the results. That's kind of what we're working on now. Which ones are the most popular in your category, who are the developers in your network who are using it. You can talk to them and ask them questions. The other one is around open source libraries. So you can see popular open source repositories. Mostly these are GitHub, from GitHub that people have added to their apps, have said, oh, I've used BlocksKit or Action Bar Sherlock, and you can see all the apps on TapFame that have actually indicated that, and developers, and reach out to them. And then these are sort of, the way I look at these are sort of evolving resources as our community inputs information. The other section of resources is really creating a back and forth dialogue and kind of getting into the workflow of an app developer. Because today, where we come in to play is your app is in the App Store already. It's live, so you give us the URL, we put in screenshots, and we let you create a portfolio. But we kind of want to go back in time and say, you're launching a new version, well, upload your screenshots to TapFame before that version goes out and get feedback from other developers and designers, kind of like what Behance does with design shots and things like that. And then even going back before that, you don't have an app in the App Store yet, upload a build on TapFame and get feedback from other developers and designers before you launch it. So, the classic problem you guys were touching on before is like it's really hard to iterate on an app because it's a very binary state. It's either works in your simulator or it's live in the App Store. There is no middle playground to learn and iterate from. It's kind of the reason so it's a funny question, we actually don't have an app, right? And that's kind of it's been a positive. It's funny, but it's been a positive thing because the power of the web is you're able to iterate. So we're able to try different sign-up flows, different invite flows, and like instantly launch stuff. And it's a little bit ironic that we will, but we kind of want to provide this online hub where mobile developers can iterate. So that's sort of the challenge. I'd love to get feedback either now or offline around some of those challenges. And more particularly, if you guys have apps that you're working on, we're really pushing hard on this getting into your workflow, on helping you get feedback from other developers and designers. So if you have stuff that you're working on immediately, let us know. I don't know what else.
I think there's a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Satjot?
Yeah.
There's a question.
Yeah.
I had a question. So I think it's awesome you guys are doing it. But so I've developed a few apps, and one thing that I was running into at the beginning of an app is I want to use certain effects or certain like widgets that I've seen in other popular apps, and it seems like you guys have a little bit of this. But is there a way for me to say, look up Facebook app, which might not be on your platform already, but look up Facebook app and see like, hey, what do they use to do this transition? Like, how are there other open source tools available to do that?
Yeah. So
But specifically around like large apps and ones that might not necessarily have the app creator on your app store.
Yeah, totally. So if Facebook's not on the platforms, it's a little harder to do that. But that open source page that I was showing you before kind of just is like a listing. There's no search by type, like say pull to refresh or left-hand bar nav or a UI kit or a core animation. There's no search like that yet. But we're thinking about adding sort of filters on the left-hand side to browse stuff. And I think that might help you get to sort of like 80% of what you're looking for. But yeah, I mean, if we have the Facebook app on the platform and the designer has added something, we definitely like
would
to
you
showcase
go
that.
to open source that, collecting that information, so somebody can put Facebook on there and then people can say like,
Yeah, like
this is
Wikipedia
how,
style. Yeah,
it's
definitely. That's kind of like Wiki style.
Yeah, right. Because there's a few things that are already out there that let you browse like the open source tools that were used, but not a lot to create a comprehensive.
That's a really good idea because like up until date, we've kind of been thinking about all of this as an extension of portfolio creation, and portfolio creation is really about the apps that I have worked on. And I think what you're pointing towards is like a developer working at Snapchat probably knows what Facebook is using to do something, right? And like giving them an opportunity to.
I know Matt is raising hand, but I was chatting with him the other day about the same problem, right? There are sites like, I think you might have seen Coco Controls, sites like that, and we were chatting about it and on like how actually we can make it better. And his idea was to actually create an app itself and allow you to test different open source libraries in the app itself. So you're like, okay, I want to do this transition, but I want to test it on the device on how it works, right?
Right.
So that app will actually allow you to test that part of the transition in the app itself, and that's going to be like so much better than what Coco controls have, which is
Right, because it's hard to find things on Coco controls, and you know, you want to have screenshots, you want to be able to play with it, and you want to know is, more importantly, if you've seen it in a live app, you want to know, like, is this the thing, but stylized, you know what I mean?
So you'll see all that. We actually have, if you want to pull up that flows page, we actually have like a page where we list the flows of like popular apps for like Facebook, Snapchat, on like how they implemented sign up and all that stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
Like,
that's like
if I'm looking for a sign up flow, I can come to here and find best practices.
Yeah,
Because I
exactly.
don't want to look through all of them. I just want you to tell me what the best ones are.
Yeah, and we'll put more data on this on like what open source libraries will actually help you implement this. And
Awesome.
Matt?
Yeah, I think it also be cool, like, to kind of go off that is, like, notable features for apps, too. Like, something that they did particularly well that you can kind of identify or highlight. So, if you want to copy or reference or just kind of see what other people, what stood out about what their thing from the developer standpoint.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So this is, it's really, I mean, this is a really cool tool when you're building something and you need somebody with a certain skill set to be able to drill down by like, okay, you work on Android with this framework or whatever, but have you guys considered plugging into any of the sites where people do freelance work, like Odesk or even LinkedIn or something, so people can post their portfolios easily?
The short answer on Odesk is yes, and I can tell you over some beers. The long answer is that freelancing is tricky. So freelancing is not as trivial as it sounds. It's really easy to say get buyers and sellers and put them together. We actually, our origins were in freelance connecting mobile developers and designers. And it's just a pain in the ass. The two core issues is that one, you get paid at the end of the project, and most freelance projects don't work out, and like I have experience, and people usually yell at you, and things go haywire. And the second is you only get paid 10%. We potentially could work with them, but we think a bigger opportunity is sort of to just be like the repository of mobile talent, and whether it transitions into like a recruiter search type of LinkedIn type of thing, or a job board like Dice or Monster or whatever, we think that opportunity is bigger, and like working with SDK companies. A few SDK companies actually are our partners now, and we in a tactful way promote them, and every month they pay us, and so that works out. We think the opportunity is a lot bigger there than freelance. And the point on Odesk is Odesk really isn't a freelance marketplace. They're a global money arbitrage company, so they make it easy to pay dollars to rupees. That's their value.
I mean, partly, but it's like you have something you need. I'm not talking about if you like, hey, make my app. That's usually a disaster.
Yeah.
But if you need a guy somewhere that you could afford who can integrate an SDK for you or something, that's but they don't drill down.
Yeah,
that
so
way.
Odesk has taken notice because Odesk has 4,300 iOS and Android developers, and we have over 12,000. So they know about us.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I thought the beta testing stuff you were talking about was really interesting, and I don't know what you thought about it, but for me, what would be really cool is if I could do one of two things: either ask the broad audience at large to test out my app and give some feedback, and maybe using like Apple's enterprise developer licenses, so that you have a closed community that's very easy to get the app installed instead of dealing with all the test flight crap.
Yeah.
So using it that way, or two, doing something like ask your target market. I don't know if you know AYTM, but they allow you to have people go to a web page and click on things and give their opinions, etc. So doing something like that where I could get feedback from the demographics I'm looking for on an early thing without having to A, recruit people, and B, get them to set up a test flight.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of customer feedback the last few weeks and trying to figure out these core things. And one, this is like things that comes up. It's almost like creating this cohort of trusted developers who will give you feedback, you'll give them feedback, have this sort of karma thing we're exchanging. But another idea that came up was, if you just sort of send us your binary, we can render your app in browser and like have it play, and then send you back recordings of like user sessions and be like, hey, this is how it used. How would that be something that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, that would totally work. I mean, there's something to be said for actually having people use it on their device and having like a feedback framework on the device, but I think doing it on the mobile browser might be interesting too. Like certain motions don't translate as well, but
it negates all the other problems of like device distribution, you know, UDID, and like, do they actually have the latest OS, all that nonsense, and then
right. But those are actually some of the things that you might want to do.
True. So yeah, I think in that model, I don't think we're ever gonna like with that functionality. We won't replace test flight. It'll just be another thing that you can easily gather feedback on, even early on in that process.
I wouldn't mind if you guys replace test flight. Just having an enterprise license that anyone can use on your system.
Yeah.
Save a lot of people from having to spend a lot more money trying to do that from home.
Yeah. Gotta hire more people to do this and replace test flight. We sit near the kitchen, so come say hello.
Satjot is the best ping pong player, so if you guys want to challenge him.
Bring that.